Vince, what's happening today, man? What's going on in the world?
Nothing, just a normal day, just our libertarian president centralizing the whole world, centralizing everything. I'm sorry, I'm cheating into our conversation,
No, no,
but
no, no. I'm glad you
it's
said that
happening.
because here's the thing. I didn't mean to cut you off right now, but like, I you tell me if I'm wrong. I think this is one of the most important, if not the most significant stories out there. I've sent it to a few people in media. Nobody's talking about this, Vince. Like nobody. No, I mean, are you hearing about this at all in the media world?
There's not the media, the left media is not talking about it, and the right media is not talking about it. And the it meaning what? I mean, maybe we should tell them what the it is. What is the it?
Well, I'm going back to, and I did this with Craig Fuller on FreightWaves. I'm not going to read the whole post again because I don't want to bore my audience. But, Matt Smith, which you've had an opportunity to look at,
Yeah,
did a summary of the House Armed Services Committee defense bill that shatters 4 years of American economic policy.
right.
And he talks about how the U.S. military bought weapons from private companies for decades previously. It funded R&D, placed contracts, and let the market work. The government
Right.
didn't build factories, fund workers, or control supply chains, and this bill blows that up. Why do you think, Vince, that nobody's interested? I mean, is it boring? Are you and I boring? Like,
No, I mean, there's other more pressing, more exciting things like whatever President Trump is talking about on any particular day, or how the press reacts to it. But that's a good question because I was thinking about it. It's like I know why the right, left and right press. I know why the right isn't talking about it, but why isn't the left talking about it? So just to answer your question directly, the right's not talking about it because there is a degree of denial. Uh, Trump one was all about co-opting the Tea Party, and Donald Trump, President Trump, um, when it really comes down to it, he's a New York Republican, and New York Republicans are really uh, Democrats, and I'm not even saying that in a negative way. What I am saying is that Trump's a spender, and he's going to spend hopefully on things that rebuild the country, but this time he's really kind of ignored the whole Tea Party thing, the libertarian aspect of it. And he's really centralizing it. It's the strong executive office, and they're centralizing things. Paraphrasing that, not paraphrasing, but acknowledging Matt's excellent post. They're centralizing price. They're centralizing production. It's very unholy. And even if it's for the right reason, it's not a power that I want the government to have any more than 5 minutes in a crisis. And so I don't think the right's talking about it because there's a little bit of denial, And even if it is, I'll be a complete right winger here and say, you know what, it is bad, but it's way better than what we had, right? And on the left, I don't, I'll throw it back to you. I don't know why the left isn't talking about it. Maybe they're as dumb as they look, um, and they're more interested in, more salacious things to talk about. But maybe it kind of reminds them of what they did. It's kind of a Republican version of what Obama did, centralization, price controls, things like that. So, I mean, I would ask you, why do you think the left is ignoring it? The left media, so to speak.
that's a great question because this is an opportunity for them to really bring attention or awareness to what's going on. Now, I have to think they have access to resources, information that they would be able to recognize where this is all heading. But
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I mean, the right, I feel, I mean, the propaganda is so bad on both sides. I never
Yeah.
realized how apparent it is on the right because all it's done to me, it's just shifted. So now you got the equal amount of propaganda on the right that you had on the
Yeah.
left for the last 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. You do. I mean, I think the propaganda becomes apparent to people. I'm speaking about myself. When you see the leader as less of a messiah and more of a human. So in the beginning, I was like, yeah. all right, this is propaganda, but I agree with it. This is propaganda, but I agree with it. And then today, like for example, today I see two statements by Trump, like not today. I mean, I saw something today that's ridiculous, but I saw two statements today. One was today, and one was uh, our our employment is great, right? And then the next statement was Trump, same day, says, and we need PAL to cut. And I look at it and I go, there's absolutely no connect there at all. The more obvious one is the one that we saw, I think, last week. One was the economy is doing great because of me. That was a month ago, and now the economy is doing poor, and it's Biden's fault. And I really feel like I'm getting my crank yanked here. And thank God I haven't gone into the Messiah. It's like the flip side of Trump derangement syndrome is Trump Messiah complex.
Obsession syndrome. Obsession syndrome.
Obsession syndrome.
Yeah.
Trump TOS. Okay, yeah. But I think that's both of them together. Derangement and Messiah equals obsession. You know, we're all obsessed.
Well, and also too, I mean, they're portraying China as the enemy, the enemy, the enemy. And again, I have to give credit to Matt for pointing this out because, in the past it was Russia or Japan and is China really the enemy? Because, they're like, oh, China stole. Well, we let them do it. I mean, we let them do all this stuff.
Right,
Our politicians fuck their prostitutes. We let them into the universities.
Yep.
We let them buy intellectual property. So does it make sense at this point to start taking pages out of China's playbook? I get so much heat for saying these things, but I don't know, Vince, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, I view China as speaking as a patriot who feels that we are existentially in trouble. I feel that China is our economic enemy. Okay, I also feel that Russia is our enemy, but I don't feel like I don't feel like scapegoating them for what we got ourselves into. Enemy is the wrong word. You brought up Russia, you brought up China, and then Russia. It seems like it's split along political parties. For the Democrats, Russia is the enemy, going back to Clinton, and for the Republicans, well, now it's China. It was, let's say, the Taliban. It was when the neocons were controlling the Republican Party. It was Islam, and all these things are valid threats. But it seems like, I mean, literally, Mike, the definition of a scapegoat. China's a scapegoat. Russia's a scapegoat. Literally, the definition of a scapegoat is you're in a desert. There's a goat. You take your sins and you write them down on paper and you tie them to the goat. You hit the goat in the ass. You let him go into the desert. And you say, the scapegoat's the reason for my problems. And on the left and right, they all need a boogeyman, But to bring it back to the other thing you said, China is the boogeyman. We enabled it. It started in 1976 when we said, please make stuff for us and buy our bonds. I mean, we are here because they let it happen. Both sides, It's not partisan. It's sloppy governance.
This episode is brought to you by Vaulted. Launched by McIlvaney Financial Group, with Vaulted, I literally just tap a button and I own physical gold stored in a professional vault. Vaulted is offering all of my listeners $50 of free gold when you click on my sign-up link. They have a tool called Vault Plan that allows you to passively add your gold position every month. Just activate it for 6 months and you will get $50 of free gold in your account. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to vaulted.blbvux.net/coffeeandamike. So when you look at this U.S. Armed Service Committee bill, Matt summarizes the whole thing with, it's starting to look more like Beijing and not Wall Street. What they're doing. I wouldn't even say attempting to do anymore. This is what they're doing.
Yeah, we talked about that before, before going on the air. And when we talked about it, it reminded me of something I read. Look, it's not a rabbit hole. It's actually pretty cool. But a geopolitical guy, left of center, neoliberal, but a geopolitical guy, I forget his name, said that the U.S. the point I want to address here is what you're saying is that, and what Matter's saying is that the U.S. is moving towards Beijing more than Beijing is moving towards the U.S. And it's fascinating because our colonization strategy forever has been to get a country to adopt or adapt capitalism. And once they adopt it, we can get it democracy to come in there afterwards, right? And that's a noble thing, even if it's fraught with risk and shortcomings. And over the decades, you would see us do that, successfully or not successfully. We get people to do capitalism, and then freedom of choice comes behind it, right? Capitalism. But in China, so the world moved towards capitalism and democracy, hand in hand, capitalism and democracy. And then, and this is China, this is what China did. And then Singapore comes along and says, we're going to do capitalism, but we're not going to do it with democracy. We're going to stay authoritarian. And the US said, ha, you think you will. Over time, we're going to screw that shit over, and you will be democratic whether you like it or not. You'll be a democratic republic. And for years it went on. And it didn't happen. This is where all the color wars are. Color wars in Hong Kong. Color wars that are coming to Taiwan. Color wars are coming to Taiwan. Another conversation. But China, and I studied this, right? China goes in and looks at this miracle in Singapore. What's his name? Lee Kuan Yew? I forget his name. But China goes in and says, look at what Singapore did. This communism shit is not working. We're all eating tree bark. You know, that's what's going on under Mao. We need to fix that. So Deng Xiaoping comes in and goes, all right, we want a little bit of capitalism, but no democracy. So they say we'll have a centralized government, still authoritarian, no democracy, and we'll test capitalism. And it's testing, and it's growing, and it's growing. And so what you have is you have a centralized. This is why Matt's right, and what you're saying is right. The East went from communist authoritarian to capitalist authoritarian, centralized capitalism, state-controlled markets, heavily influenced, right? State-controlled prices, heavily influenced with capital controls. And the West, which was democratic capitalism, that was our thing, that is our thing, they're not moving towards democracy. They're like, we're capitalists now. So we're authoritarian capitalist, and you're democratic capitalist. What's going to happen? Well, authoritarians don't have that pesky democracy. And in the big picture stuff, they can navigate their boat faster. You either do it or you're shot, you know? And the US is like, hey, that's kind of works. Maybe we should do something like that. And of course, you have the woke version of it, right, which we all hate. And now you have, you know, the right-wing version of it, which is basically no matter who the party is in the West, we are moving towards an authoritarian version of capitalism. You may call it socialism, you may call it fascism, but what it is it's government has a heavy hand in dictating markets like China, social behavior under the left like China, and manufacturing and productivity, which we have to do anyway, but I don't like it as heavy-handed as it is. So to answer, like to respond to Matt's observation, insight, and you're like raising an eyebrow at it, yeah, the world is moving towards an authoritarian capitalist model. Call it fascism or call it Stalinist communism. I don't know, but it's really moving away from democracy and towards centralization of all fucking power on earth. And I can see it in the micro, but that's that big picture concept I think is true. We are moving towards their model of governance while they have moved towards our model of economics. And that's where we are, unfortunately.
Well, and when you talk through it like you just did, because they're selling it on, you know, the fact that this country, the United States, is not prepared for any type of invasion or really any type of, you know, kinetic military, you know, kinetic war. So they sell it on the fact that the government is saying, you know, we're just going to build this stuff ourselves now and not rely on, you know, private companies to do it. And
yeah,
do you think the masses will bite on that? I feel like they will.
I agree with you. I feel like they will as well. And that's a little call that 3D chess on the government's part. So um, like economically, we need to reset how we do things, and that's going to come up again. I'm sure the word reset, but we need to go from a services economy to a manufacturing economy. That's the key, and that's because of the way people are doing trade now. You can't serve like it's accounting, right? You need to do manufacturing. You need to export to reduce your deficit. Period. That's what the U.S. needs to do, right? So how are we going to sell that to the U.S. citizen? Well, you need to centralize manufacturing. You need to have it happen overnight. So here's where it gets kind of cool. In the US, pesky democracy, you can't just build factories. You need to build, see, this is the truth. You cannot build a factory unless there's a phrase. It has to be shovel ready. So a bill gets passed through Congress. Yeah, it doesn't finish getting passed unless it's shovel ready. You can't budget the money to an industry that's not ready. Here's my plan. Let's do it. No, no, no. Are you ready? Do you have the people on staff? Do you have the resources? Do you have the supply chains? There's no company in the US that's going to do that overnight. There's one. See, whenever there's money that needs to be spent, and whenever it needs to be spent on manufacturing, there is only one industry in the United States of America that's always shovel ready, and that's the military. And so you say, I'm speaking ideally, not cynically yet, right? I'm saying, and so you say, shit, we need to rebuild our manufacturing. Nobody's ready. We're not going to be building car plants in Ohio anytime soon. We need to spend money. Trump needs to spend money to keep the economy going. Whether you think it's doing poorly or not is irrelevant. He needs to spend money to keep people employed. He needs to move towards manufacturing because he believes in his heart that this will make America great again. Not disagreeing. So who are you going to do it with? Well, there's no car manufacturer that's shovel ready. Well, there's the military. Well, all right. But the military hires companies as subcontractors. So you give the money to the military and you let them spend it. So we're going to have, budget-wise, you're going to have $5,000 hammers and ashtrays that cost $500 if people still smoke. But ultimately, this is where your point about a kinetic war, you sell it to the U.S. people by saying, we could be in a kinetic war soon. So we need to rebuild our military. Remember, we're not invading anyone anymore. This is Trump. We're not invading anyone anymore. We're bringing our troops home. We're withdrawing from areas of the world. We're not spending money for NATO anymore. So why the hell are we spending on military? Because the military fear of war, real or not, is the point of the spear that gets us back to manufacturing. I'm being his ally on this for the moment. But the truth is, everything's going sideways, little by little. 100 days in, nothing's done yet. And as it goes sideways, he's got to spend the money on something. He's got to rebuild something. So he's giving it to the military, and that means more centralization. And that's really kind of fucked for us. The military's always shovel ready. It's like DARPA shit. The military can put who's the only company that's shovel ready? Anything that Elon Musk owns, DARPA, Neuralink chip in your brain. Yeah, we could probably use that on soldiers, and then we'll use it for everything else. Cyber trucks. You know what? Not a bad idea for a military vehicle. It really isn't. You can if you have a battery swap put into it, you could just see all this military industrial complex no longer being military, but growing into every aspect, being a tool of a centralized government. And it kind of freaks me out a little bit. I ignore it, but then I talk to you and I go, oh shit, yeah, I forgot about that. That's not really good. So yeah, I think we're spending money through the military to justify our move towards, quote, manufacturing. And it's dangerous.
Well, what is the first thing that pops into your mind that freaks you out talking through this?
Oh, the power in the hands of the application of the technologies that's being created right now using like the Neuralink chip, for example, right? The Neuralink chip, right? Uh, it's actually a good example. The Neuralink chip would allow you, or any other, there's other products out. These are the DARPA products, right? You put a chip in a person's brain, and it allows them to move a cursor. It allows them to communicate, play chess, right? It also influences them. See, what goes out comes in. So if we can take your brain and put a chip in there and say this chip allows you to project outward, that means we know how you do it. And what goes out comes in. We can tweak what's going on in your brain and change that. So that's one of the things that bothers me, not about the technology. The technology is dangerous enough, but if the government is adapting it, how different is that than when the left went to Facebook and said, censor Trump? It's the same idea. It's the same idea. It's censorship. Like on the old Twitter, it was you got banned or thrown off. On the new Twitter, you just get the volume turned down and nobody sees you anymore. It's like a Black Mirror episode. But the thing that scares me most is the right's flavor of social engineering is just a different flavor of social engineering. The left did it. The right is going to do it potentially if they're not checked by the true libertarian wing of the party. And militarily, I think we're in a danger of really becoming frogs in a pot. Not knowing we're being boiled, and that's what freaks me out. I look at my children and I say, well, there's going to be absolutely no individuality or will to do anything except what you feel permitted to do. Frogs in a pot. So that's kind of what scares me.
Well, that's where I think people had said COVID, which crazy, it was 5 years ago, but they're like, yeah, it was a test. It was a test to see how people would react, and you saw the fragility of our society, the way people and I mean, the beginning of it, I mean, I was freaked out too, but it didn't take me long to realize. It was like, fuck, they just nonviolently declared martial law in this country and nobody did anything. And, and I'd said numerous times, yeah, COVID they wouldn't fall for again, but something else they would. And I mean, even the topic of real ID, I've said, I'm like, I might as well go out and get it because I think it's pointless. But you can't resist these things because as long as technology is continuing to advance and advance and advance, there's no way to stop it. And so I don't want the few times I have to fly, I don't want the hassle. You get the real ID and you'll be able to get through, I think, easier. How are you going to stop it?
Yeah, it's the when you're an incumbent, like our government's an incumbent, whether it be left or right, doesn't matter. When a government is in power, they have the luxury of slowly moving the needle on people like you and me, right? So I have a very similar story. Unvaccinated, all right, unvaccinated for 3/4 of it. Like when it was way over, like when it was after 3/4 of it, I got one shot. Why did I get one shot? Because I couldn't get on a plane to go see my family. And I literally had to, I literally wanted to travel to see my children in a different state. And I had to get a shot. I got the first shot. And then I wasn't fooled about COVID at all in the beginning. I mean, at all is a strong word to use, but and I certainly wasn't fooled on the back end, but I complied like you're describing. And so the incumbent that's in power has the luxury of making you compete against yourself. I'm still not using face recognition, right? I don't want to use it. I know someday it's going to be like, you have to use face recognition. Remember, like a finger. I don't want to use the fingerprint. Like, it's economic competition. Eventually, you capitulate, or we die, and they don't care about us. If they get 2/3 of the people to capitulate, the next generation will be 3/3 of the people doing it. So it's really a matter of waiting out people like us. Like when a new product comes out, they pay you to use it. we'll give you $5 back if you use this, Mike. And you're like, okay. Maybe you won't say okay, but most people are like, okay. Then they say $10 and you say, no, no. Then they say $50. And maybe someone like us would say yes, but let's say that we don't. But by this point, 90% of the people are doing it and they don't care about us. And we're voices in the wilderness. Either we're thrown off of Twitter, literally by the left, or we're deplatformed in terms of our volume by the right. It's very, like I'm really, the real IDs, you know what? It's funny you say that. I'm going to Canada next week, to be on Sean Newman's podcast. He has an event there. And I might get a real ID, So I'm like, oh shit, they get you, they wear you down. It's like Chinese water torture, except that it's American. So I agree.
Well, and eventually too. I mean, they're gonna put it so you can't drive a car without it.
Yep.
I mean, it's inevitable, and as long as technology continues to advance, and COVID showed too, they won't let you on the plane. Then you're not going to get on. You're not going to get through security. You're not. So, and if you're okay with that, then that's fine. But it'll trickle down to the cars. It'll trickle. And here's the other thing too with the CBDC. If people don't think it's already here, because to your point, the phone, you do everything on that thing.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right.
You can't live without it. Not you personally, but like, and I've had these boomers. Some of these boomers crack me up. They're like, well, I use cash and I use credit card. I'm like, okay. So you don't think they can track your credit card? I mean, you don't think? They just don't give a shit about you. They don't care.
Yeah.
But you go into the bank to take money, to take cash out, you're on camera.
Right.
You drive through red lights, you're on camera. You have a Ring camera at your place, you don't think they can access that?
Yeah. It's like the Batman. It's like the scene in Batman, the movie where he's turning on everyone's cell phone. They know where you are. It's funny you bring up the I use cash concept. Like 15 years ago, they started a war on cash to look. I don't want to go down that hole. I want to stay on the CBDC part that you said, because ultimately, this is communism I'm describing here. Ultimately, CBDC allows a concept. You're talking about things that we use to give people the illusion of freedom. I track you on your phone. I track you at the red light. I track you in the bank. All those things are us having freedom now, right? The flip side, which won't go down here, but will go down elsewhere, is CBDC. And the CBDC thing is very similar to a Marxist concept. And the Marxist concept is if you take away people's right to have money, literally have money, whether it be cash or a credit card that works somewhere else, if you take away their right to have money, then you make them not able to leave the reservation, not able to leave the property. They have to come to you. So 15 minutes, they're all thinking about ways to what's the word, electronically geofence you. 15-minute cities, or there's a camera wherever you go, as you're describing, or CBDC was a bridge too far here. Stablecoins will do that for them. Stablecoins will do it as well. It's going to happen as well. But I think if you take away a person's, you touched on money, and it's a really good thing. If you take away a person's ability to hold and have money, whether it be real or electronic, you take away their mobility. If you take away their mobility, you put them on that reservation. So what we've done in the West is, all right, let them move around. We'll just watch every fucking thing they do, and that's what's happening now. Your comment about driving a car, absolutely. It goes from I do this because it's convenience to I do this even though it's inconvenient, just because I want to survive. It's very Orwellian. That's kind of scary. Yeah.
And they'll sell it too. I mean, you talk about the cars. So in Phoenix, where I live, they have those Waymo cars, all those driverless autonomous cars.
Uh-huh.
They're unbelievable. They started in Tempe, and now they've expanded to the entire valley. And I see them every day, these things. They're Jaguar SUVs.
Right.
I mean, it's only a matter of time before. I mean, Craig Fuller of Freightwaves. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he was on the other day, and he said it's only a matter of time before truck drivers, those are going to be driverless.
Yeah.
Public transportation, buses. I wonder how he had an explanation for it, but I wonder, like in Ohio where I grew up, if you get a snowstorm, do those cars just not go out that day? Or if it hits a block of ice or there's a blizzard, how
Right.
will you be able to program it to like pump the brakes if it starts to slide?
Yeah.
Versus Arizona,
Yeah.
you know the weather. I mean, it's the weather's
Right.
consistent.
There are ideal. That's what you're in Arizona. There are ideal those things won't, right. There's certain, we give up freedom for convenience and we end up creating systemic risk for all society. It's, you know, I'm not familiar with his work, but his point about you're going to see these driverless cars everywhere. Um, uh, David Graeber, right? He died, anthropologist, anarchist, and he had a debate with Peter Thiel about where the flying cars, right? And in an aside after the debate, Graeber was talking in another one of those podcast type of things, and he said, when you really think about it, the technological advance. This is the whole centralization and government thing that concerns me. When you really think about it, since the 1950s, all the technological advancements that we've had, let's say you're living in the 1900s, right? 1900s, you're like, we're going to have submarines, we're going to have planes, we're going to have what, and all those things happen. Okay, so you didn't get teleportation yet, you didn't get an invisible man yet, but you're pretty close. I'm bringing this to the driverless car, right? So as time goes on, it almost feels like a Club of Rome, a Malthusian thing. We've got this technology that can do wonders. Don't use it. Use it for something mundane. Use it for something to be efficient. Use it for something to all the technological applications are dual purpose: convenience and control. Convenience and control. The driverless one, the reason I bring it up is because the driverless one uh, actually is convenience, control, and it obviates the need for work. It really does. There's no paper. When a computer was created, we do more paperwork than ever. It's ridiculous, right? Well, the driverless car happens, and you really aren't doing anything. It really is a technological breakthrough that they're allowing to manifest. And I believe that the path towards, this is crazy to say, but one of the paths towards socialism is through this type of stuff. Because if you could, they can do it. I mean, they can't do it all, but they can pretty much over the next, 2 years, automate everything. Like you can use driverless cars to fire everyone if they focused on it, right? You could use uh, blockchain and crypto to get every mid-office attorney fired. You don't need them anymore because you have the contract right there in the NFT. All these things argue for massive unemployment if they're deployed, and I think we're not using them for that reason. I'm sorry.
Well, no, what I want to throw into that is, and this goes into the AI. I do want to talk about Bitcoin and gold here too before we end. You got to come on more often, Vince. I could talk to you. I could talk to you about this shit all day. But I look at it too from an accounting standpoint. You just mentioned lawyers. I think things are going to get so economic and get so challenging as we move into this new system that they're going to have to do things. They're going to have to come up with ideas that we've never heard of before, and
What do you mean?
off the wall, like off the wall. In terms of, and also to add to that, AI. How much will that put accounting? Where I'm going with this is accounting. So,
Right.
if they decide next year, and this is just a theory by me, what if they decide to do away with federal income tax next year?
Yeah.
What will the role of a CPA be at that point?
No, it's
Come,
white collar. It's white collar genocide. Sorry to use that word. It's white
no,
collar
no.
mass murder. It's mass murder for white collar people. That's what this technology does. It's to interrupt you back. What happened in the 70s to the assembly line worker is happening now to the white collar service worker. And they're slowing it down to make sure we don't have massive unemployment. But it's over. It's over. Like the technology's there, man, and they're just not using it. I know because I'm one person. I'm one person putting out 4 stories a day. Am I writing AI? No. But everything else except for the writing is automated. And I can just see the pull of, fuck it, automate the writing. And it's crazy, but you don't need lawyers, you don't need accountants. And it really, I mean, it destroys our whole society, work to be busy type of thing. Anyway, I agree.
But it's how long are they going to be able to keep that genie in the bottle, right? Because companies they're going to continue to move forward with AI, with the be able to automate processes, workflows, and what have you. And this is where I
Right.
think I could see the Trump administration again. Who knows? I could be way off here, but I could see them doing away with federal income tax next year before the midterm.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't know how you feel, but I think massive. You're going to see massive unemployment, and people are going to get crushed by this.
It's a big lobby. I don't know. The CPAs will push back and we'll have a tax cut instead of removing income tax. I don't know. But you're right. Look, if you have an NFT, a non-fungible token as a contract, you remove a need for a swap agreement. You remove a need for a lawyer to look over a letter of intent. You remove that. The agreement's done. It's the digital handshake. I mean, literally, like, I agree, let's do the deal, and it's a handshake and it's legally binding. To your point about accountants, it's a massive industry. Like, I mean, I'm saying they're going to push back, but they're going to start firing people. Your comment about how they're going to stop this, there's a clue. I have a clue for you. During COVID, there's one way they'll stop it or slow it. They can't stop it, right? Government cannot prevent the trajectory of history. It can only speed it up or slow it down. I forget where I read that, but I'll make it my own now. That is, government can't change trends. It can only speed them up or slow them down. So during COVID, I'm sorry,
I was say that's good. That should be a coffee mug right there, Vince.
that is a call. I mean, it's
That's
got
a
to be
good.
less
That's a good.
words, but
Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
government gets in the way. That's the actual coffee mug, right? Um, all right. So here's the thing that made me go, oh shit, they really are making sure people aren't unemployed without thinking about all the stuff we're talking without AI, right? So it's 2021, and I live near a Starbucks, and I would go a lot. And in the middle of COVID, the streets are empty. There's maybe 5 people who go into the Starbucks a day. There's a big banner sign outside, and it says, "We're hiring." And I'm like, for what? What are you hiring for? So I went inside and I talked to like the the barista, whatever you call it, the manager, and I worked my way up. And I finally got to someone who owned like a bunch of them, like a regional type of person, like they own like 5 franchises or something like that. And that person said to me, "This is under Biden, right? The government said, please hire people, don't fire anyone, and we will give you on the back end a tax adjustment or a tax break." And I went, not knowing. I didn't say at this point I'm done with that person. I go, why would they do that? And it's like, oh, they don't want people rioting in the streets unless, of course, they control them. But that's another conversation. So they will, and then I started reading David Graeber again. Like years ago, I read him, and they will create. This is the answer to your. What will they do? Slow it. They will create bullshit jobs. I mean, they will create bullshit jobs to keep people busy that are willing, no productivity. Like in China, 500 people putting in a light bulb, full employment. In the U.S., it'll be 500 people getting a coffee. So I think what's coming is more bullshit jobs for people that are willing to take them, and that means the younger millennials and Generation Z are going to be set up for these bullshit jobs. Did you ever see the movie Brazil?
I never saw Robert De Niro. I know of it, but I never saw it.
Okay, all right. Based on your political leanings and your feelings about government, I think it's really worth a watch, and it's about bureaucracy, right? And there's a scene, and the De Niro scene's great too. Yeah, he's like, "What did you do?" "Well, I fixed the TV." That was an example of you and me fixing someone's TV instead of going. But there's a scene where the man in charge, I don't even know who he is, but he's going down a hallway and he's saying, And all these people are talking to him, and they're all fellow bureaucrats working for him. And I mean, it's like kind of a humorous. It's a Monty Python style thing, right? It's a humorous take on Orwell. But I guess the point is, we'll be drowning in bullshit jobs uh, just to make people occupied. And by the way, that's mind control. Give them something to do repetitively, and they'll keep doing it. Like I noticed that 90% of my day is repetitive behavior. And I go, oh shit, I'm an automaton now, you know? So I think one of the pushbacks, one of the ways they haven't figured it out, Michael. Like you're like, how are they going to stop it? They haven't figured it out. You're right, they haven't. One way is they'll create bullshit jobs, have Starbucks have 20 baristas. You know, you'll walk in one day and it'll be like, can I take your coat, sir? Let me put your straw in, that type of shit, you know? Um, uh, but UBI is going to come, right? They're already testing it in certain areas, and it'll be tested. It'll be tested. It'll be accepted. It'll be like, this is a really, really, really poor area of, I don't know, pick Arkansas. Really poor area of Arkansas. It's just 500 people. Let's try it. And it's going to start. And that's the beginning of the end, at least for individuality.
How far off do you think we are from that?
Oh, that's if I were an expert, I'd have a strong opinion. How often? I mean,
You're an
I
expert,
think it's
Vince.
just
Let me interrupt you. You're an expert because you are in tune with what's going on from both the financial markets and the geopolitical and what we're talking about right now. So I would definitely consider you an expert in this.
I thank you. I appreciate that. Uh, I have one eye, and most people are just blind. It's pathetic, you know.
They don't want to
Um,
know though. They're blissfully unaware.
you know, yeah, exactly, exactly. And I struggle to not be blissfully unaware. That's really what it is. That's the struggle to not be like, I don't have a TV. That's one of the ways that I'll do it. But now I find that I'm addicted to social media. Anyway, to answer your question, how long? Um, well, I think it's part of the reset, the controlled demolition of it industry by industry. So I imagine I'm a smart government person. Like, all right, it's breaking through. What are we going to do with all these truckers? Okay, well, all we need to do is keep them employed for another 10 years, generally speaking, and then the next generation, there just won't be anymore. And because ultimately, this is what's going. Oh, how's this? My answer is, and I don't know the year, but my answer is when most of the boomers are no when it has to do with funded pensions for the current generation that's retiring. So I'm Gen X, but I'm an older Gen X, so I would fit in that category. Um, even though I don't have a pension, you know, it's all my own money, you know. Um, I think the government, the smart powers that be will be saying, oh shit, AI is going to turn this industry off overnight. Everyone's going to be, let's pretend it's accounting, right? All right. How much money do we lose if accountants are no longer employed? Well, we lose that in tax revenue. No, we don't. We get that in tax revenue, but now we have to pay them. Oh shit. Well, how many of them are retiring? Okay. Raise the retirement age for everyone, cut the retirement benefits. It's a slide into third world mentality. Like it's a there's emerging markets. We become a submerging market based on that. So look, I think they just cannot do it. If this continues on the path that we're describing, we become socialists. That's what I'm getting at. So everything is just flipping. I don't have a deadline except to say I think it becomes more apparent how it's going to be phased in when you look at the actuarial tables for pension receivers, which, maybe another COVID is in order. Too many people are taking pensions. Let's kill some off. I mean, I'm being, cynical, but it's true. It's very Malthusian.
Yeah, and it. Yeah. You're going to continue to see this trajectory over the next 3.5 years.
Yeah. You're referring to over the next over Trump's term, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just where this is ultimately going. So talk to me about, you said something about stable coins, how that will play a role in it. Because this is what I don't understand, Vince. Like, all this gold has come back to the United States. What will Bitcoin, stable coins, what role do you envision in all this?
Um,
I don't get it. Explain this to me like I'm five, because I don't understand this.
okay. All right. I don't think that's true, but okay, I get it. Um,
No, I swear, I've
uh,
had Bitcoin people on here. Stable, I don't understand how this is part of the future because I didn't look what it's doing today, but Bitcoin's been on the rise again, and
right.
Trump's got his crypto team, and
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Outside of Trump, even though he's a, look, if I were to talk about it from a Trump point of view, Trump hates finance. Stablecoins help him disintermediate banks. Okay, so, but just zooming out to where this is geoeconomically, it all of this stuff comes down to we need someone to fund our deficit. Okay, factories aren't springing up tomorrow, even with the military industrial complex getting a lot of money. We need to survive because, to simplify it, if China was a buyer of our debt and them buying our debt allowed us to continue to buy patio sets from Costco, even though we didn't need them, fifth patio set, new umbrellas or iPhone 25s or whatever's out there, uh, buying things we don't need with money we don't have, to paraphrase uh, Fight Club. Once they said we're not willing to buy your, let's pretend that overnight nobody's going to buy our debt. That means we have to buy our debt, or we need to find a country that will. Let's assume that there's no country on earth that will buy our debt ever again, which means we have to buy our debt. So what does that mean? Well, that means the debt that the government needs to issue to get off its own balance sheet needs to be bought by the public again. This is going to go right into stablecoins. Okay, it's not a rabbit hole. And so there is no country in the world that wants to buy our debt. We have to buy our debt. But if we buy our own debt, meaning you and me, literally, if we as investors buy our own debt, that's less money we have to buy stocks. The stocks go down, quality of living drops, less money to spend, et cetera, et cetera. We're financing our own deficit. So the government says we need to find someone to buy our debt. And who could that be? Well, one of the things that government can do is they can change capital requirements, which is, by the way, very socialist, communist, very Stalinist. Not all at once, but we can say to the banks, you need to have more money held back in reserves, so we know that you're solvent. So they'd have $1 in their bank, they'd lend 10 out. You raise it to $5. So now they have to have $5. What that does is it makes the banks buy more treasuries. So the banks buy more treasuries. They hold more treasuries. So that's one country that's buying the treasuries for you. And then you say, well, we got this new thing, this new shiny thing called, you know, fart coin, you know, and well, no, not fart, we'll use stable coins, right? We got this new shiny thing called stable coins, which, by the way, function very much like a money market in a sense that if you put your money into the stable coin, then the stable coin functions as cash. Very CBDC in behavior. Well, if you make the rules so that stable coins can plug into anything. So I have a stable coin, and that stable coin allows me to directly buy gold. It allows me to directly buy this or directly buy that. Well, what can I put in the stable coin? Can I put my $5 bill? Yeah, you can, but we prefer treasuries. So if you're a bank customer, to give you one example, a bank customer says, we have a new product. Would you like to buy land in India? And you say, yeah, that's just a product, right? I'd love to buy land in India. I'm going to rake my own tea farm. Would you like to participate in the Indian economy resurgence? You're like, yeah, well, buy this stable coin and you can put it into our fund of real estates. And you're like, okay, I'll buy a stable coin. Well, put your money in a treasury that goes into stable coins. So treasuries become the asset that is the collateral that goes into the shiny new thing. So you've essentially, stable coins become another new country. And so people start putting their money into it. And they do a lot of good if they're properly done, in the sense that Like what we didn't need them before, why do we need them now? They do a lot of good in the sense that they remove the need for a middleman. The stablecoin is the token. So you go into stablecoin and you say, I want to buy that. Everything's automated. You don't need a bank to do it. But what banks are doing is they're creating their own products around these stablecoins. But to answer like a 5-year-old, stablecoins are a sponge that soaks up all the bonds that no one else wants to buy. And that sponge will hold those bonds until maturity for us. And so stablecoins become the new China. And that's it. That's how stablecoins work. And that's one of the reasons that 3 things happen. I'm sorry. So that's it. That's basically it. I don't want to go too far, but that's it.
So they basically they shove you into a lane and force you to stablecoin, but it's good. It's attached to treasuries.
Yeah. It's like the stablecoin is the new thing that you need to have treasuries. You need to have treasuries to own it. Now I know that I'm not speaking everything properly. I know that there's some people that know more about this than me, but I know enough to know how a liquidity sponge works, and we need someone to buy our treasuries. And stablecoin, look, I'll be Trump for a second here. True Trump. Trump is a classic corporatist. What does that mean? He hates banks. He hates financiers. He hates abstractions. He wants real things. Build me a manufacturing facility. He's a real estate guy, right? He'll default on his mortgage and say, fuck you. I'm not going to pay my mortgage. What are you going to do about it? He's done that. So he doesn't like money changers. He doesn't like that aspect. He doesn't like bankers. So what do stablecoins do? Well, stablecoins replace the banker. When you take a stablecoin, you take a treasury, and you put them together, you don't need a bank to own the stablecoin. You don't need a bank to own the treasury. You need a person to say, I click on that and I buy it. And you have it. And so what you have is you have enticed the American citizen. It's like a war. You're in a war. We're in a war. Someone has to buy our debt. War bonds. Buy our bonds. Buy your own bonds. Buy American. Well, Americans aren't patriotic anymore, by and large. So you can't say buy American. We're just moving towards that. Buy American. If we were at war, you could get everyone to buy bonds in a heartbeat. It's patriotic, but we're atomized. We're divided. We're not patriotic anymore. We don't feel we feel a need to FOMO or whine on the left or be righteous on the right. And so there's no way to get us to say buy American, be a patriot. No, it's like buy Bitcoin. Well, how? Well, use stable coins, and so the whole U.S. is going to be a buyer of U.S. treasuries through the stablecoin concept, and in effect, clean the government's balance sheet up. If you were to look at the whole, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, finish what you were going to say, because the thought in my head is that's how they get rid of the debt.
It is. I mean, look, if China's not going to buy our debt anymore, right, we can do. This is like before stablecoins. These were our choices. We can make the American public buy the debt. Assuming that you're still a democracy, well, we're not going to do it. Well, if you're authoritarian, you can make us do it a little bit, right? You're like, oh, okay, we have to buy the debt, or you can't get on a plane. Like your real ID. You have to own a treasury to get on a plane. You have to own a treasury. So that's how we would manipulate. That won't happen, but that's an idea. So you can't get Americans to buy by force treasuries. You have to give them a higher interest rate. Well, we can't do that because a higher interest rate means we have to pay. We just can't do that. We can't afford it our government can't afford it. So, all right. So Americans won't buy the treasury. What can we do? Well, then you get into something called yield curve control. You save the bond market and you essentially just print more money. So if bonds are made of dollars and dollars are what's important, then print more dollars and you pay off your debt with all these counterfeit dollars, essentially, like fake stuff. So that's the second thing. The first way is Americans buy the debt. No, we're not going to do that, right? Unless there's a war. 2, you print more money and you monetize the debt, which is what we did after Vietnam. Korea, Vietnam, print dollars. Hide the fact that we have all this debt by just making more dollars to pay it off. So if you can't print dollars as quickly as you want, because you're going to do it, you're going to print dollars. What else can you do? Well, you could basically just cut spending. which brings us to the 80s. If you cut spending, then you have a depression because we need that flow of money to keep people at least feel the illusion of prosperity. Or you find another country. Is there another country out there that'll buy it? We're working on India. Look, we're working on India. India's going to buy treasuries if they have any money. That's one. We're working on Japan. Please stop selling our treasuries. That's what they're doing right now. They're saying, fuck that. I don't need your treasuries anymore. And we're like, please stop selling. We'll give you incentives to buy it. Well, what are the incentives? Well, we'll give you this kickback or that or most favored status. We'll do all these things. So we need people to buy our treasury. So let's say it's India, let's say it's Japan, and let's say it's even China. Let's say we talk China off the ledge there. It's not going to be all of it. We need someone else to buy it. So who's going to buy it? Well, Americans won't, and will revolt if inflation gets too high. So I guess we'll just call Tether a country, and we'll have Tether buy it. Or stable coins. Tether buys stable coins. It's all the same thing. That's it. It's a Ponzi, but it's a good Ponzi.
Then where do you envision gold in all this? And it's gone down a little bit right now. It's interesting hearing the different perspectives because some people will say this is, we're about to enter a bear market in gold. Other people will say, it's going to climb to, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you see it?
Well, the comment about myself included, right? I have an opinion, right? The comment about gold right now is like any other market that's really interesting is when it makes a new high or comes off substantially, not substantially, but significantly from a new high like it just did. And some news comes out saying that statistically gold goes down after this sort of thing. It's like walking by a crap stable or walking by the money wheel with the dollars on it in a casino and the wheel spinning, or the roulette wheel that's spinning. Everybody's walking by going, the roulette wheel, everybody's talking about the roulette. I think it's going to go in black. I think it's going to go in red. So everybody's placing their bets. It's all bullshit. It's all, and I'm guilty of it too. It's all like, I need to have an opinion about it, it's because it's moving. And, I have opinions about them, but I try to say, this could happen or that could happen, which doesn't get you a lot of subscribers, but we're doing well. But to answer your question about the actual market itself, over the long term, before we get to what's happening right now, over the long term, gold is being remonetized, and we're entering into a hard money type of era. We really are. We've been in a soft money era for like hundreds of years, believe it or not. So we're entering into if you're looking at like conjure type waves, which I dabble in once in a while, we're entering into an era where I use the phrase mercantilism. I use the phrase lack of trust. You need to have something that's stable, that has no counterparty risk, that allows you to trade internationally. And so gold as a form of freely available collateral will shrink. People will own their gold and they will not lend it out anymore. And so that argues for a significantly higher price because we're not going on a gold standard. That's not happening, right? We do gold? We could do all kinds of things with gold, but we're not going to go on a gold standard. What we're going to do, though, is have a lot of gold to keep it in mind when we do trade with the BRICS who no longer want to hold our treasuries. So I think the unassailable direction of gold is up. Possibly, I don't want this to be, you could use it for a title, but if you look at the last two big bull markets, and I'm paraphrasing Michael Oliver here, looking for a metric, the last two big bull markets, they were measures of 8, from $30 to $800, $30 to $1,000, $30 to $300. These bull markets were 8 times. And so now we're in a bull market that essentially started with gold at about $1,000. It's a long one. And if the pattern repeats itself without getting too fancy, when gold's done rallying, it could be as high as 8 times what it was. So that puts us at around 8,000. There's a chart of that Michael uses. And the reason I bring it up, aside from the fact that I do like his work, is because he's not trying to give you the monetary bullshit. He's not trying to give you all the velocity. He's just saying, look, when it tops at 8 times. So that's my reference point. Now, speaking recently, Uh, Gold is the monetary tool that these tariff agreements are, these deal discussions, whatever you want to call them, that Trump's calling them, are being under. So as the world shows no hope of reconciling on trade, then gold becomes even more important. Beyond the fact that they don't want dollars, you need gold to transact with people who you otherwise don't trust. And every time there is conversation recently of potential movement between China and the U.S. coming together, well, that's a reason to not own your gold. Now, so that's why gold came off a little bit. But very recently, the Labor Day holiday in China, it's a pretty serious holiday. It goes from May 1st to May 5th. And so there are two types of buyers in China, just like there are everywhere else. Physical guys, that's the government or government proxies that are buying so they don't have to buy treasuries anymore. And then you have the speculators that are front running their own government. And those guys buy all the time, Shanghai traders, we call them. And they're very leveraged. And going into the holiday, they said, you know what? I don't think I want to own my gold over the weekend. I'm a little worried about that. And so they sold on Thursday. They sold on Wednesday, Thursday, and we have a little bit of a bounce today, but it's actually negative again. So you're at a point in the market where right now, three things happened that made people say, maybe it's going to go down. The first one was, it seems like there's some sort of conversation going on between Trump and China. China may have come to a table. I don't know which table, but they came to a table. That's the first thing. So a little bit of a thaw. The second thing is the holiday makes the speculators sell. And the third thing is, and this is where the quants come in, the bigger banks like Nomura, they noticed that whenever gold does X, it does Y. And those things have not worked over the last, every day. It's like gold went up, this should happen. Well, now we're really into the market. Only a few times in the past, say, 10 years, has gold gotten 25% above its 200-day moving average. And when it has, in the next 2 months, it has been lower, significantly lower, 5 to 25% lower. And so I think the bigger banks are going, let's play that. And now they're punting. So they decided to punt as the Shanghai players are selling. And as people like me are going, oh, look, the spinning wheel, the spinning roulette wheel, let's see what the price is going to be. I think it's going down, and all that happened. I think you had a little bit of a washout. I think, I don't like to do price projections actually, but I would be completely happy if the market went sideways for the next 2 months between now and August and held above, say, 3,100. 3,200 is a big number for me, but 3,100. And if it did that, then what you'll see is, this is the real reason gold's going up now. China's central bank is buying, and now in front of them, China's insurance companies are buying. The insurance companies are buying it because they want to create product for their citizens. And you have this captive buying, and everyone is front running it now. I know you're going to buy this gold, and so I'm going to front run you. So it's a little bit over its skis, and it needs to come back. But there's only one thing that kills the bull market in gold, really, and that's if Russia uninvades Ukraine. It's not going to happen, So that's it. That's what I think.
And that's going to continue on too. The idea that war was going to end within 24 hours or even within a week. We sit here May 2nd, still going, and no signs of stopping.
Didn't Trump say? I'm not abusing him on this point, but did he say he would end it quickly?
24 hours.
Yeah, did he say that quickly?
Yeah.
There you go. The thing about Putin is, and when you think about it, just like forget about relationships and personalities. Before you go to a negotiation at a table, you need to make sure that anything that you're going to negotiate for, you can win militarily. And so he's grabbing as much as he can. He's not going to stop. There's a macro fund guy out of Asia that I know very well, and I usually talk to him about Taiwan, but every so often he's got a European insight, and he said Russia's probably going to have a summer offensive, and coming back to the whole, we're moving towards Beijing. Putin is essentially president for life. Xi, not president for life, but a lot longer than any U.S. president. All they have to do is wait us out because of that pesky democracy. There's going to be elections, right? Another year of this, and Putin could be like, just park there, So, I mean, look at what Trump did the other day. I mean, he did this today. Trump's been hammering Ukraine. You should take this deal. You should, resign yourself to reality. And then yesterday, maybe today, the other day, he turns on Putin and says, 5,000 people are dead, Vladimir. You have to stop. And I'm like, what? It's like bad cop, good cop. And I think it works in the short term for Trump, but the longer it goes on, the more hollow it looks. And it's dangerous. So that only makes Europe hate us even more, because we're not stopping the war. Not that we should, but you get the point.
Vince, where can people find you?
I'm on X, right? But easier to find me or get me to talk on topic on Substack, goldfix.substack. We've been doing this for 4 years. Started as a hobby during COVID, in between Starbucks trips. And now it's actually, because gold's so interesting, people really care about it. And as you mentioned, we do a geopolitical and macroeconomic take on gold. Gold's the visor that we view the world through. And we put out almost 5 posts a day now. So it's sometimes it's a big influx in your mailbox, but there's no bullshit. There's no crap there. A lot of analysis from various perspectives.
I encourage everybody to contribute to Vince and the work that he's doing, and be a paid subscriber, because it takes time, and these things cost money. So I encourage everybody to do that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we aim to please. Let's put it that way.
Vince, I always enjoy our conversations, even when we talk on the phone. I got to have you back more often as we watch all this unfold.
Yeah, when an event happens, call me. I'm sure I'll have an opinion, right or wrong. But no, Michael, thank you for having me. And it really is good talking about the things that drive gold instead of gold itself. And all this stuff is driving gold's price, Thank you.
I'm still astonished that more people aren't discussing this, but maybe we're ahead of the. I hate the word curve, but maybe we're ahead of the curve here, Vince.
We're ahead of the dummies, right? We're the smartest dummies. Exactly.
Till next time, mic drop.
Thank you.